I'm deeply honored to be here today to introduce the James W. Foley Legacy Foundation Award for World Press Freedom to Chris Chivers. The first thing that you all need to know is that Chris is hating every minute of this. He had to be talked into accepting this award, and that's one of the reasons that he deserves it the most. This is an industry, and war reporting is a corner of that industry in particular, where awards and peacocking are pretty much part of the deal, and Chris shies away from all of that. He's been described as one of the most, if not the most, important conflict reporters of his generation, and his reporting credentials speak for themselves. His work is deeply researched and human, but these days you won't find him on the battlefield, but out planting onions and fishing in the home that he shares with his wife and his 5 children in Rhode Island. The other thing you need to know about Chris is, and there isn't an award for this, but he is the most earnest man alive. It's true. He came into my orbit back in 2013 when I was charged with helping journalists working in Syria, and Chris had some information about someone that we all needed to avoid. That summer, when things became very dark, he kept turning up. And the funny thing is, I met Chris for the first time in person this evening, but for a substantial period of time, he's been my moral guide, a constant presence that I couldn't shake off even if I wanted to. He's offered information, a sounding board, and fatherly advice like, "Emma, it's midnight. Nothing good happens after midnight with the journo crowd. Go home." Once, during a very terrible patch, after the kidnap of a friend, and he's gonna kill me for telling you guys this, Chris messaged me and another friend of mine, and he said that what we were doing for our friend was very good, and if he was there, he'd tuck us up for an early night with some warm milk and honey. Only he transposed the names, and he sent the message to me and a totally different person with nothing to do with the situation, who wrote back saying, trying to understand why this guy who writes about guns was offering a turn-down service. If I needed moral guidance, Chris would provide it, and he's extended the same to some of the families who are here tonight who are struggling as well over the last few years. He would help to bounce ideas and offer support. Other journalists too have benefited from his wise counsel, his mentorship, his moral guidance and career guidance, always delivered with earnestness and an amusing, gruff self-depreciation, and always, always behind the scenes, quietly doing what is needed in service of his colleagues, veterans, friends, and family. Never flashy or showy or craving attention, but always, always walking the right path alongside those in his orbit who need it. I'm sure you're going to hear more about this in the video because the ripples of Chris's kindness have run wide and deep. And I just wanted to finish before we watch the video with a little something I wrote to him when he was nominated for the award. There would never be enough words to say or large snappers to have the good Lord place near the end of your fishing line to express our gratitude for you walking alongside us. But maybe this is a little start.
Chris Chivers is one of the most remarkable, exceptional journalists I've ever worked with in my long journalistic career.
Chris has an understanding that journalists have to go out and do dangerous things, but that it's so essential that we all look out for each other.
He embodies the ideals of independent reporting in the most difficult situations, and there's really kind of no one like him.
He's this incredibly loyal friend, and he's sort of incredibly loyal to the craft of reporting and to truth.
He's an extremely aggressive and focused reporter, and at the same time, he's a very compassionate person. He was always someone who was willing to take time out of the stories he was pursuing to help a colleague, and it's one of the things that makes him who he is.
Chris, to a remarkable degree, listens to his own inner moral voice. That would mean the fixer in a foreign country whose life is at risk and Chris is trying to protect, or the driver who got killed and Chris is the one who follows up with the family. These are all the many ways, both colleagues and the people who come into his orbit, that Chris tries to look out for and protect.
He understands the human dimension to any type of situation. He sees it as something that he has a moral responsibility to do.
So I was kidnapped by the Taliban in 2008, and I had no idea when I would speak to anyone again in terms of families or friends. And the first phone call my captors let me make, it was to Chris. And I'll just never forget sort of the sound of his voice and the comfort it gave me and the strength he had, and just knowing he wasn't going to give up on me. He was going to fight and fight. To this day, I'm grateful to him for that phone call. Chris has stopped doing war reporting, but he's taken on this new mission of working with veterans who want to become journalists, and it's just extraordinary. More than anything else, it's helping journalism. It's giving a new perspective and new voices that we need.
Chris is a person of exceptional thoughtfulness, integrity, and commitment. He doesn't stop at the surface, 10 feet below the surface, 100 feet below the surface, a year into it, 2 years into it. From the technicalities of weapons to the whole arc of life and death.
It is for these reasons that we are honored to present the 2018 James W. Foley World Press Freedom Award to Christopher J. Chivers.
If it's all right, I'm going to talk about Jim. I last saw Jim on the Syrian border weeks before he disappeared. The humanitarian crisis then was sprawling. Civilians were in motion, part of an exodus spurred by a government campaign targeting neighborhoods with random shelling. Circumstances under which I hope no one here ever has to experience, much less with your families. Millions of people remain scattered across this zone of indiscriminate fire, and there was Jim. You know what Jim was doing? We're talking about journalism, right? But you know what he was doing? He was trying to raise money to buy an ambulance, a used ambulance, for the staff of a hidden hospital in Aleppo. I know people in my trade who would say that journalists are not supposed to be this involved. Tonight's for celebrating the memory of a friend and advancing, I hope, the possibilities of empathy, decency, and heart, so I won't, for now, quarrel with our College of Cardinals, beyond saying that seeing Jim working to save lives, even a few lives, from hundreds of thousands, it was impossible not to feel respect. No one wants there to be an award named for a friend and a peer. Our younger selves should outlive us, outshine us, and carry on after we're gone. But ultimately, to me, Jim's life was about the tensions between humanity and journalism, and the often hidden clash in our profession between doing what's right and what's good for careers. So if we are going to have an award honoring him, let's let it flow from the merits of his life as a call for reflection and even for penance. All of us made mistakes out there, including me, no matter the overstated, squirm-worthy words you just had to sit through. We've had a lot of hard fights in our newsrooms about really agonizing issues related to the coverage of hostages, and to other Americans, including our service members in peril. We fight about how to cover them, about the balance between haste and decency, between what's humane and what sells. And we've had many failures in the areas of security. Some of those are individual, some are institutional, some are industry-wide. We have to own them. I'm not going to list any particulars. What matters is that many of the mistakes out there were and are avoidable, at least when our better selves show up and speak up and are heard. And there are a lot of good people in the tables around you and who aren't here tonight. David McCraw, Emma, I don't know where you went, Beals, Emma Beals, Hoyda Saad, Karim Shumali. I could stand up here and burn all the time naming them. We should all be humbled by their company, and I hope that all of us can learn from them and hear their ideas, follow their example, so that the many treacherous beats in this world claim no more good lives. Nothing would honor Jim and the Foley family more than this. Saving lives, that's what Jim was trying to do the last time I saw him. So forget about me. Please support the Jim Foley Legacy Foundation and all of its important work so we can all be better than we've been. Thank you.